out there. I am your host. That's right. We are back again. It's Jessica Koch and Profound Professionals, the interview series that has been coming to you for 8 years. We bring industry experts from all over the world, and they truly help improve your personal life and grow your business. Today, we have an exciting one. I love this topic, especially since recently, and I don't know that I shared this with all of you, I had the most amazing dream. It was a deep, deep dream, but it was actually two separate dreams all in one sleep cycle. They were separate pieces and stories, and definitely both their own series and books that I will be writing that are fiction. And I always thought I'd be, the nonfiction writer only. And I am super excited to get those out. You'll hear more about them later. And so today is guest based on my dreams. She's the guest of my dreams. She is Alyssa, and she is an award-winning author and international book coach and ghostwriter and founder of The Right Place, Right Time. Timing is a fascinating thing, and some people say time doesn't exist. It's an illusion. It's expanded. We can transcend when we meditate, removing time. We can expand time. Time is a fascinating subject. So The Right Place, the Right Time. Awesome, awesome title. Welcome, Alyssa.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to hear about your dreams and your books.
I'll have to tell you, but I'll have to have you sign an NDA. No, I'm just kidding. Because I already see them as mini series, and I know that the books each will be their own series, and really fascinating because in the undertones, it will tie into how we are all energy and all connected. And both of the stories do that, but in totally different and unique ways. Super interesting stuff. Yeah, we should have an offline conversation because there's some things I'm not ready to share with all of you yet. We love you out there, but you'll get to hear it. You'll get to hear it soon enough. And you'll know that the preview and the teaser was in Alyssa's interview. So there you go, right here today. So how did you get into writing, and what kinds of books do you write? And what made you decide that you were going to ghostwrite and coach people through this process?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a big question with a really long answer, but I will try to give you the clip notes. So I've been writing my entire life. Writing became a passion as soon as I was about 5 years old and was given my very first black and white composition notebook in kindergarten, and could learn to spell some very basic words, not well, but some basic words. And we were encouraged to journal in these black and white composition notebooks, and then do drawings. And that was really where my love of writing began. And it was something that I studied and focused on throughout my childhood and into college. I have a undergraduate degree in creative writing as well as a graduate degree in Masters of Fine Arts. So writing has been very much a staple item throughout my journey. The issue was, after getting that Masters of Fine Arts and returning to Vermont, I did my undergrad and graduate studies in Ohio. I returned to Vermont. There was not a place, a job, let's say, where that Masters of Fine Arts degree kind of transferred easily to employment. And I found myself in a couple of different jobs that had nothing to do with writing or books, and kind of unhappy with that, because my whole goal had been trying to use these writing degrees for things that were writing related. And eventually got one job with one academic publisher that happened to have a North American office in Burlington, Vermont, and I got in the door. And so I spent a couple years in marketing. I spent a year in editorial, and I loved it. And I thought, this is going to be my job. I'm going to just live and breathe this job until I'm ready to retire. But we were acquired and we were all laid off. And at the same time that this happened, I was pregnant with my first child. This was a bad combination of events. And so I was back in kind of other 9-to-5 employment, trying to figure it out, trying to let go of the dream to be a writer, to be more practical, more realistic, find something that would pay the bills, help with, health insurance, daycare costs, those types of things. Ended up in software as an administrative assistant. And that was about 2016. And over the next couple of years, it was kind of just a personal storm of unfortunate events that basically led to me starting my own business. So in 2018, I formed my LLC, and that was in November. And 6 months later, with just 2 months of living expenses, I walked out on my own with the right place, right time. And in the earliest iteration of my business, I was doing copywriting and content writing for clients, predominantly coaches, consultants, trainers, speakers. They were all business to consumer models. So people really talking directly to an audience. And I was doing their emails, their blog posts, their new newsletters, their lead magnets, their webpage copy. And what I found was that I was really taking on their voice, their brand, their message. And so it was like, oh, this is ghostwriting. I mean, yes, it's also content and copy, but it's really me pretending to be them and creating that kind of content. So ghostwriting kind of became this natural evolution within my business. And then it officially became books when one of those clients said, hey, I'm ready to write my first business book. You've already been writing my content for over a year. Will you be my ghostwriter, like for the book? And at the same time that that was happening, I was working on publishing my first memoir, Dear Universe, I Get It Now. And so that was going on. I got asked to ghostwrite. And then one of my other clients introduced me to a woman who wanted to write a memoir, but needed a book coach. And she just kind of knew intuitively that we were going to be a really great match. So that woman became my first book coaching client. And so it was just kind of this organic evolution of getting here. And I followed that intuition. I followed what the universe was kind of putting out in front of me. Mm-hmm. And when I was working on these books with these women, it was just like, I knew, like, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be. It's not the copywriting and content writing. I don't want to write web pages. I don't want to write emails. Like, I want to be with people writing their stories and getting their messages out there.
I love that. I love that. I'm in a book club for women, business women. And we have done so many different amazing books. We've done Jack Canfield's Focus, The Power of Focus. We just finished Dean Gracioso's Millionaire Habits. And we're starting, because I've been on this studying the art of story writing kick. We're doing Stories That Stick. And, I've read some other great people in the story space, and giving those structures, and it's really exciting and fascinating and interesting on how on every level, this is a skill that they really should be teaching in high school, like so many other things. My long list of curriculum I wish was in our public school systems, one being, the crafting and actually creating, genuinely really good stories and how they're applicable in your life. Right? Whether it's within your corporate career, your relationships, how you present, your business and in presentations and in public speaking, all the things require this skill, this art of storytelling. So.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So tell us, what kinds of clients at this point? So you had this journey and kind of this a mishmash of opportunities and things you were doing that were producing revenue and growing this new business you founded and launched. And now that things have, settled and progressed, what kinds of clients are coming to you, and where are they stuck, and how are you supporting them?
So I'm in my 6th year of business, and this is year pretty much 4 in doing this specific kind of book coaching, ghostwriting kind of stuff. All of my author clients, with the exception of one, are nonfiction, and all of them have chosen independent or hybrid publishing paths. So I'm not supporting clients in finding literary agents and pitching to big 5 traditional publishers. Mm-hmm. There's just too many other avenues that are really striking the interest of authors for a variety of reasons. There's disadvantages and advantages to all of the publishing paths, but my authors they're really focused on kind of doing it themselves and not waiting for a gatekeeper to tell them whether or not it's good enough to publish. Mm-hmm. So they're coming to me from all across North America and Europe, and they tend to be entrepreneurs, visionaries, leaders, or honestly, people who have just gotten to a certain part in their life, I would say kind of second or third act, and they're ready to tell their story. They're done holding back. They're done trying to water themselves down. They want to tell the story of something that they've experienced that they believe will deeply help someone else. And they're ready to do it, and they have the financial means to go for it. And they predominantly find me by word of mouth referral. So I have some really strong power partners who will pass my name around, or prior clients who have loved working with me will pass my name around as well. And those are my favorite, right? Like there's nothing quite like that human touch introduction. You know, there's a trust that's already built in there and a credibility that's already built in there, far more than like anything I could really do by like posting on LinkedIn every day of the week. And really what we're working on together are what I like to think of are the three parts of writing, because I don't believe that writing is just putting words on the page. I also believe that there's 1/3 of it is mindset and the other third of it is strategy. So when my clients come to me, we're not just looking at the words and the manuscript. We're also talking big picture thinking. What do you want to do with it? Who do you want to reach? Why do you want to tell this story? You know, what are you prepared to invest? Those types of questions, which fall under that strategy kind of umbrella. And then we're also talking about mindset, like, well, why do you think that your story is not important? Or why do you fear what you're going to say and how other people are going to react? And quite honestly, when it comes to those blocks and barriers, like where people are coming to me in the beginning, there's a lot of fear, a lot of doubt, a lot of uncertainty, either about the process in general. They've never written, they've never tackled a book. They have no idea how that works. They don't know anything about the publishing industry. Or there's a ton of fear and doubt around, I'm not good enough as a writer. My story's not powerful enough. People will hate it. I'm worried about it triggering me and bringing up a bunch of stuff that I thought that I had kind of like, you know, laid to rest. It's in the rearview mirror. I don't want to face it again. So there's a lot of the mental game that we have to grapple with along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that in no matter what kind of, category of book you're writing. I think that probably holds truth, because some pieces of us always peek themselves into any kind of story. So, so you're almost like a story therapist.
You know what? Very word therapist has come up a lot. And clients will, you know, kind of unleash, you know, whatever they need to say or feel. And then they'll kind of step back and go, oh, I'm so sorry. You totally just like were in the therapist role for a second. And, you know, I'm here for that. One of the things that makes me a little bit unique in what I do is that I also have an undergraduate degree in psychology. I worked in community mental health for a bit. And I also started a master's in marriage and family therapy before I switched over to my other master's. So I very much bring psychological principles and an understanding kind of how humans kind of operate, how they think and feel to the work that we do. And I'm also somewhat intuitive and also very much an empath. So there's a lot of light work, is the other word that a lot of my clients use, that kind of comes to the table and provides a really safe container for authors to be stripped down to the bone in terms of their vulnerability, you know, around the fear of the work or the fear of what they're about to say or the uncertainty about what they're about to do, whatever it is. You know, I like to say that I'm 100% capable of getting into the trenches with them and, you know, throwing my body on top of theirs if the you know, fire starts and there's shrapnel shooting everywhere. I'm here for that.
Wow, book writing sounds scary.
It is in people's minds. It's so not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. But yeah, there can be some catastrophizing that goes on. And then I have to kind of reel people in and be like, whoa, we are not in the business of saving lives. Let's just bring it down a couple notches.
I wish I could remember the quote. Somebody watching out there, put in the comments. I know there's this great quote by Mark Twain, something along the lines of, you know, the message was, and I'm not quoting him because I'm just going to paraphrase totally. His general message was, you know, if he had had near the problems that he had imagined, you know, his life would have been really, really tough, or something along those lines. He has a great quote about that. My husband just told it to me the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good one. And of course I didn't capture it, but it'd be perfect for right now if I could just remember it.
Yes. Well, I was just writing an email for my list for next month, and I was writing about the fact that we do a lot of this, like, but what if? But what if they don't like it? But what if they don't get it? But what if they don't think it's worthy enough? But what if it doesn't relate to them? But what if they think that I'm just complaining? But what if they don't see me as the expert? And oh my Lord, the buts are the biggest issue. And we don't spend enough time saying to ourselves, but what if they love it? But what if it's the book that they need right now? But what if it resonates with them so powerfully that they change something about their lives? But what if you say something that saves them? We get so trapped in the negative, the fear, the worst case scenario. We don't create any energy around all of the possibility, all of the good results that could come out of it. And then we let the worry, the negativity, hold us back, right? It's all of that, but what if, when it's fear-based or negative-based, that keeps us spinning out on the first draft, or not writing more than a couple paragraphs, or stuck in revising the same sentence for an hour and not writing anything new, or finishing a draft and then shoving it into a drawer, never to see the light of day, right? But if we were to use but what if in the positive, we might feel more motivated and have more momentum to go after the manuscript and go after the dream of being an author than, being stuck over here in all of these worst case scenarios that aren't guaranteed to actually happen.
Yeah, for sure. We really do overthink things. We really do get in our own way so often. And so I think having a coach like this is truly brilliant. Now, what and how has AI affected the process for you when you're working with your clients? So are you coaching them through using some of those technologies and tools, or have you avoided that and stayed away from it? Kind of what's your thoughts on, as a ghostwriter and in this writing space? That's definitely a hot topic in the world right now. So what are you doing with it?
Yeah, totally. It's totally a hot topic. I have a love-hate relationship with the whole AI thing, for a variety of reasons. I think that it's really, on the positive, I think it's really an awesome tool, and it's mind-blowing to think about how humans have created AI to do all the things that it does. And I think when it comes to automating certain systems, helping to make things more efficient, super, super neat. I mean, I was just playing around the other day. There's a creative project that I want to explore, and I was playing around with a couple of free AI kind of like character setting generating tools where you provide prompts of something that you're envisioning, and then it spits out like an image, right? And I thought that was really great. Does it replace a human artist? No. But if my aim is not necessarily the visuals, but I want something for, economically to help out with the story that I'm telling, then maybe that's a good approach. And I'm all for people using AI to help kind of jumpstart some ideas. Because sometimes that's the hardest part, is like staring at the blank page and being like, what do I say? Where do I begin? I have my own ideas, but I just don't know where to like get into them. And if you don't work with a coach and you're not a seasoned writer, I could see where AI could be beneficial in giving you that initial kind of quick start. Where I'm anti AI is especially when I see people say, I wrote a book using AI. That grates on me like nails on a chalkboard. Because to me, that's not writing, that's prompting. You prompted AI to generate a manuscript based off of your idea or whatever specs you gave it. And then you sat back and it generated thousands of words or whatever it is. And maybe you edited, maybe you revised, but those are not one and the same with having actually written and authored an entire body of work that is 100% yours. And this is the second issue that I have with that. Beyond the fact that prompting and writing are not the same action, but I have a concern around AI when it comes to the intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
Where is AI pulling its information to have helped you create that manuscript, especially if it's, let's say, nonfiction thought leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not the only person in the space that might be talking about, let's say, storytelling techniques.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you be certain that what's being spit back to you as a result for that manuscript is actually your ideas and your content? Well, you can't. And there's an integrity piece here with that.
Mm-hmm.
There's also not enough policy or law yet that's caught up to suggest that we really understand yet who owns certain content that's been generated by these platforms. So when I think about the word author, right? Author means like self, or like, I'm the author of, it's authority, it's credibility. Well, how do you feel that you are truly an author of something if it's been generated for you and hasn't come from your own experience, your own
Right.
lens, your own wheelhouse? And the third big issue I have with like writing a whole manuscript, right, with AI, is that we're not getting you in there. You have a distinct voice and a distinct way of explaining something or talking to your audience. And
Mm-hmm.
that is truly the thing that makes books different. There are no new ideas. There are no original anythings.
Well, right. And that's what I was going to say. And so what I think is, I think it's more like, if used correctly, it should be more like a soup starter, right? If I gave you a soup starter and seasonings and things that were going to launch the base of a soup for you, and I gave it to 10 chefs across America, all 10 chefs are going to come up with a different soup based on all the unique ingredients they put in. And many of those ingredients are going to be inspired from the cooks and the people they studied as they grew through the process, right? So even if I were to read 100 books on storytelling, and then have my own experiences with storytelling as I applied what I learned from the different and pulled what I liked and threw away what I didn't and found what worked for me and what didn't work for me personally. Not that they don't work, the techniques, but they didn't work for me. And then my experiences, and then wrote a book based on that and highlighted those people. I mean, I still would have to give credit to some of the people that I, was quoting, or techniques I learned specifically from. But a lot of times I teach classes and do things, and I know I learned this sales technique somewhere, but it's been 30 plus years of a sales history and experience of my own personal experience, and all of the webinars and courses and books and audios and everything I've listened to in all of my history. I'm sure there's someone I'm not giving credit to that I've just absorbed and made as part of Jessie and her process, innocently, right? Without sense of harm to anyone, or lack of wanting to give credit to anyone who deserves it, because I certainly want to do that. And so I think it's interesting, because even if 5 people were going to go write, let's say, a sales book on sales expertise using ChatGPT, they all are going to ask it and talk to it and tell it different things based on what they think the sales process should be, and have it spit out different things. And I still think all of those books would come out differently. I mean, I would hope they edit them. I think there should be some rule against just using what it spits out. Like, I think it's great for an inspiration and a starter, but it really does need to be gone through and tweaked based on a personal experience. And then you do need to give credibility. So whether it's adding at the end of a book, like you would authors that inspired you, you would have to say, and the prompts that I use, and the things that I research I pulled using this tool and this software,
Right.
and put that in the end of a book, or something. Because I mean, I haven't read a single sales book that I was like, oh, what everyone quotes this person for saying it, but this person, at least 3 people say, if you want to get what you want, at least 3. I mean, I think it's a dozen are famous for saying, if you want to get what you want, help other people get what they want. And I think Zig Ziglar, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, like there's a whole bunch of people who can be credited for saying that. They're all like famous and fabulous,
Right.
and but who was the first one? I don't know. I'm sure there's an origin history that someone may be able to find it, but
think there though, that's where it just comes to being transparent, right? Like, hey, I've heard this 15 times. I have no idea who to originally quote, but it's a great idea, right? Like, and so I'm including it in my book. Or,
Right,
I ran this through Chat GPT and I don't know what the original sources are,
right.
but owning owning that not owning when an idea is not 100% yours and has been influenced
Mhm.
by something else, I think is important to your credibility as the author,
Yes,
right?
so do I.
Acknowledge you don't know all of the things, that your
Mhm.
experience is as much based on lived experience as it is read knowledge that you've picked up along
Mhm.
the way, right? That's a part of what is creating a manuscript. And I think, to your point, yeah, each of us could prompt Chat GPT on a similar topic, but in a different way, we would get a different result. But they might all sound very flat and very vanilla if we
Yeah,
don't do anything to them.
yes.
And while there could be an idea that 10 other people have stated, you are still going to find your own unique way to say it, even if
Mhm.
like it's been said in some way, shape, or form. Unless, of
Sure.
course, you're direct quoting, then you're going to put it exactly like somebody else
Of
said it.
course.
But you
Yeah.
might find a different way, Jessica, to say the thing that you've read in all these other sales books, and it's the thing that resonates with your reader more powerfully. Like maybe they
Mhm.
don't know all these other people, but what you said is
Mhm.
what got them to stop and think, right? And so
Mhm.
that's where authoring our own manuscripts, being the person to actually put the thought down on the paper, say it how we would say it, still
Mhm.
differentiates us from the bot that will continue to get more clever and continue to sound more real and all of those things. But, at the end of the day, your voice is your voice. And like, this is a perfect example. I had a client who was just getting really exhausted with the manuscript development process.
Mhm.
So she was getting frustrated. She had Chat GPT generate a couple of paragraphs for one of her chapters. Well, I didn't know that, but me as her coach and editor was reading along, and all of a sudden I got to this part in the chapter and I was like, what is this? This does not sound like her at all. Like,
Mhm.
all of a sudden we've shifted tone, we've shifted like the fact that there's no humor here, there's no informality,
Mhm.
there's a whole adjustment here that's happened, and it doesn't match or mesh with everything around it. And so I sent her a note and I said, hey, just curious, did you maybe tap into some AI at some point in the middle of this chapter? I said, like, no judgment. I get that you're exhausted, but this is not going to work. Like, because,
Mhm.
and she was like, you caught me. Like, and she was just like, I was just tired. I couldn't figure out my way through this chapter. I thought maybe if I let something else give me some ideas, right, it would move me along. So, okay, cool. I get that. You're stuck. You're trying to regain your momentum, but it
Mhm.
wasn't enough to just take what it had generated and pop it down into the
Mhm.
manuscript, because it was glaringly obvious to me, who was familiar, that these were not the same voices that were coming to the page.
Yeah, and it needs to be more of an inspiration. But the scary thing, truthfully, is you can train AI to sound exactly like, not just in tone and feeling and energy and all of that, if it's properly trained, also in sound. Like they even have voices now that can fool people. It's that part to me is becoming a little frightening that
I agree.
people are cloning themselves, and it fascinates me with caution. The
Yeah.
other book topic that's hot to me that is a poke in my arm when someone says it and I just don't like it is, and I believe it to be false, but I would love to hear your opinion, whether you agree with me or not, is that book writing, books don't make you money anymore. They're just a glorified marketing tool. You pay, you invest in them for marketing, and then you use it as this marketing tool, and don't expect to make money from your books. Don't and I am just anti-belief of that. I think if done the right way, whether today or 100 years ago or 50 years ago or 50 years from now, a book can sell and can generate a following and actually make revenue. And there's a famous person who wrote something along the lines of magic, who had quite a series in both book and movie, and I would think that this person might also agree with me that book writing can make money. And I think it can make money for whether you're writing a business or self-help book or something fun and magical. What do you think?
So the answer lies in how you're thinking about the idea that books make money. If you're talking about book sales alone, then typically, no, you're not going to make money that way. So if we want to put some numbers around this, the average amount of copies that a self-published book will sell in its lifetime is 250. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. And the royalty off of that will depend on how you've published and how many other people need to take a cut before you get your cut. So when you're making a royalty off of a book sale, it's very, very minor in comparison to the retail amount of that book. So unless you're in that like top 1% who has like figured out the special sauce of self-publishing or traditional publishing, right? Because there's a very small percentage of either that figure out that equation. You're probably not going to make a ton of money back off of just direct book sales, like the average author. But this is the thing. People are thinking too small if they're thinking that book sales is the way that your book makes you money. So one of the first things that I like to tell people is that this is not a clothesline, okay? We don't have the house on one side, the book, and the tree on the other, right? The money, okay? It's not necessarily a one-to-one. Like you sell a book, you make money, right? It's more like a tangled ball of Christmas lights. And in the middle of that somewhere is the book. And the trajectory that book goes on to make you money is hard to really track, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So for example, if your book gets you onto a podcast, because the podcast only takes guests who have published books, and the podcast gets you in front of 5,000 people who didn't know about you before and didn't know you had a book, and 500 of those people go and buy the book, then you just like mapped up, right? You've ramped up your sales of that book. But beyond that, if 500 of those people not only buy the book, but come back to your website and sign up for a service that has to relate to your book, right? Then really that revenue came from your book because your book is the thing that got you onto the podcast in the first place, right? If you can get a speaking gig, and the reason you got the speaking gig is because you're now a published author, right? The book got you in the door for the speaking gig. If the speaking gig pays, then you made money off of your book there. If you can sell the book at the conference, you're now making money off of book sales. And if the people who saw you speak at the conference and bought a book now invite you to come to their office or organization or corporation, right, and are going to pay you some more, then you've just had 3 revenue streams come from one book that opened up the door to get to the conference. So can we make money off of our books? Yes, if we're thinking bigger picture and we're not just thinking about the individual one-to-one book sale.
I am a positive thinker. I'm a believer that if done correctly, a book can make sales all on its own on its 2 feet, and not have to do all of the other things or provide all the other services necessarily, especially if it's a book just for fun, and not necessarily based on business or service or self-help or, something that you would go keynote for. But I guess I'm just going to hold out hope for that.
Some people figure it out, some people figure it out. And honestly, it has to do with how you build your platform and your audience along the way.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that a lot of this comes down to like not just the one-to-one book sale is because authors tend to make this one major mistake every single time, which is that they think that they're going to write the book and then the audience will just come. It'll be on Amazon. People can find it. Well, nobody's looking for it because nobody knows that it exists. So if you're not talking about it, no matter how your title is, no matter your keywords, audience has to know that it's there and know that they want it in order to go and purchase it. So you can't just have blinders on and create a really beautiful manuscript and then expect that it's going to go gangbusters just because it's available on some major channels. You got to build your audience and your platform as you go, have people ready for it, understand what you're doing, why you're doing, not be like, holding back on social media or locally that you're working on a book, you're writing a book. Once that book comes out, hitting up those libraries, the schools, the local markets, the TV stations, it comes to how successful your book is and how much money it's going to make, it's all about what you're going to do for the book. It's just simply not enough to put it out there and expect that it's gonna light the world on fire. There's hundreds of thousands of books every single year because of all the various ways that we can publish them, and how many of those are now available to us, any of us who are willing to put the time and money into them. So your one book is in a very crowded marketplace and needs to stand out above a lot of competition. And you're the spokesperson. So you gotta be there. You gotta be ready to be selling.
Yeah, that's definitely a commitment. It sounds like almost like a child.
Yes. Yes, it's exactly like a child.
I know about kids. I got a lot of those. So don't have a lot of books, but I have a lot of kids. So that's really interesting. So what would you give us as a tip? And we have gone deep in this book thing, and because I'm so excited about it, probably much longer than I normally would talk on our show. So thank you for hanging in there with us out there as we go through this interview. Tell me and all of us a tip if we are considering our first book, and whether for business or self-help, or whether for fun and fantasy, or what would you say?
So, I mean, and this, I think, kind of pulls together all of the things that we've talked about today. And that is really understand your motivation and truly have it be bigger than sales, bigger than bestseller lists, bigger than, any quantifiable thing. Because writing a book is the long game. It doesn't happen overnight. If you really want a really well-developed manuscript, you're probably not going to bang that out in a couple of days or a couple of weeks or a couple of months, because there's a whole process involved in getting that manuscript where it needs to be. And you then have the longer game of rearing that book, just like in parenting, okay, where you're going to be promoting it the rest of its life. It's there forever. If you want it to do well, you've got to continue to nurture it. So because it's the long game, holding on to kind of superficial motivations, is probably not going to be enough to keep you going, to keep you dedicated, to keep you grounded when it gets tough. So really understand why you want to go after this and have that be bigger than the sales equations, because that's really what you're going to need to return to, as the road gets longer and as things get deeper.
Well, that is a great tip, and I so appreciate you sharing. And I so hope that people, work with you, choose to ghostwrite with you, choose to coach with you. I think it's a process, clearly, that no one should go alone without some guidance, for sure. So whether they're using AI as part of the process or not, I still believe a coach and a ghostwriter and a professional in the space is going to be really necessary for true success on the other side, right? And so thank you for that. Now, one of the things we also always talk about with our guests is a cause that is close to their heart. So can you share with us a cause that's close to your heart?
So honestly, just anything with women's rights advocacy. I think we're in a time and place where a lot of our privileges and liberties are being questioned, and I just really want to see women of any ethnicity, religion, color, whatever it may be, protected and offered the same rights as our male counterparts.
And I think that's such an important one. I think it's Helen Reddy, right? That I Am Woman, right? That the song, and they had a Netflix, I think it was on Netflix, one of the streaming channels had a documentary on her, and her, how that song like lifted her through her life and took her on such a journey to fight for women's rights. And fascinating to me, and I didn't know this until I'd watched that still there are no laws to guarantee equal pay for equal position for women as in men. That's still not like written in stone or written in the law, which I just, it's hard for me to believe, because I don't think our counterparts would allow such an injustice to occur if it were vice versa, right? So I think our fight is still on. We still need to push
Yep.
forward and try to achieve this great goal of more equality and better better balance in what's happening in the world for women in a lot of aspects. So I love that you brought that up. This is a great time for you to hit the share button out there, and you might inspire someone to give time, treasure, or talent to this cause or to a cause that you care about. Put the causes you care about in the comments below. We love to hear about them. And this show is books, and just a few more books, because we are now going to talk about the ultimate book list we're creating with all of our guests. We share books they recommend that weren't written by them, as well as books they've authored. So in our ultimate book list, what book are you going to recommend that inspired your personal life or help you grow your business?
So there was a book that was gifted to me when I was in graduate school and pursuing my Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. And it was also a challenging time more personally for some things that I was struggling with. And it was called The Invitation. And I want to say that the author, I got to look it up quickly. The Invitation by Oriah, Oriah, Mountain Dreamer.
Wow.
And it was kind of just a beautiful spiritual call to kind of lean into who you are and what you're about, and have the permission to be whoever that is.
And the book's title was The Invitation.
The Invitation.
I just want to make sure they didn't miss that. That's awesome. That is one I've never heard of. I love it when we have a brand new one to add to the book list. So that is unique and wonderful. And give us some of the long list of books that that you have written. I'm imagining, since this has been your focus, there's more than one.
Yes. So I will tell you the two that are authored specifically by me. So one is called Dear Universe, I Get It Now. Letters on the Art and Journey of Being Brave and Being Me. And that is a memoir. And that's won 2 awards, actually, since its publication in 2020.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And the other one is co-authored with a publishing colleague of mine. And that one just came out this year, actually. And it's called Do Not Write a Book, ... until you read this one. And that one is a beautiful kind of writing guide and desk reference for our nonfiction aspiring authors out there who want to know all the things before they get started. So it's chock full of appendices and helpful tips and tricks, as well as just wonderful industry knowledge. And both of those can be found on bookshop.org or Amazon, Barnes & Noble, those types of things. And the list of client works that I've touched at this point is far too long. And there's also several that are coming out this year. So I would just encourage people to follow me online or come join the email list over on the website, and they can get a sense of the other books that are out there.
So do you share a comprehensive list of past books you've worked on and worked with authors on your website?
So one of the things that will be coming to the website is I'm going to do kind of a bookstore page where it shows all of the authors' works and then links over either to their websites or where people can purchase the books. And that gives the authors a little extra boost in showcasing their work, and also makes for really beautiful tribute to the portfolio that I've been growing.
Oh, that is fantastic. I love that. I'm so glad that you're doing that. So I have loved having you on the show. This has been so much fun talking about the world of our creativity and our imagination, and just the limitless opportunities we have when you think about taking that blank piece of paper and being creative and letting your soul and yourself spill out so that you can share it and leave it as a legacy for the world. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. So if you have a favorite book or you've written a book, we want to see that in the comments. Totally hit the share button because you just don't know who might need to read these amazing books that we've talked about today on the show. And if you're thinking, hey, I'm an industry expert, I want to be on the show, well, reach out to us and our team will let you know what to do to get booked and featured on the show. Now, before we say goodbye, we always get one final piece of information or inspiration from our guests. So what would you like to leave everyone with today?
be brave and be you, because now's the time. There's no better time than to lean in and just step into all of who you are.
I love it. Now is definitely the time. So thank you again for being here. Thank you again for watching. And thank you especially to those of you who used your powerful superhero finger and hit that share button as often as you could. And until next time, I'm your host. This is Jessica Koch, and this has been Profound Professionals, the interview series that has been bringing you industry experts globally that help improve your personal life and grow your business. Until next time, be kind to yourself out there and be kind to each other. Bye, everybody.